future candidates need to be completely understanding that they will be expected to vote pro-choice.
Federal Liberal leader Justin Trudeau announcing last week that pro-life candidates need not apply to the Liberal Party of Canada. Today, a new report examining the impact of abortion on women and their families was released. Andrea Mrozek from the Institute of Marriage and Family Canada joins me now in Ottawa. Andrea, this is another study that looks at the fact that there are impacts, that there are negative consequences at times of abortion. Do you think that this will be dismissed with all the others? Let me ask you that first. You know, there's no problem with abortion. Stop saying that.
I keep putting information out there first and foremost because I'm concerned about the mental health, the general effects after abortion for women and their families. The point of writing this paper was to talk about abortion's negative effects on the family. Understanding that not everybody experiences these, but the problem, Brian, is that we live in a culture that is deaf to the fact that abortion does have some negative ramifications. What happens for women in those circumstances is that their grief that they're experiencing is compounded because they're told that there really ought not be any negative outcomes. So
tell me how you put this study together, because from my reading of it, you looked at a number of different longitudinal studies, you looked at metadata, and you said, okay, here's what other social scientists, other scientists have found. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And of course, we're not pretending that this is every single study that's ever existed. This is really an attempt to show some very solid, peer-reviewed research and literature that's existing out there. I cite, for example, the British Journal of Psychiatry, an extremely reputable journal that published a meta-analysis showing a very much higher increased risk of mental health, negative mental health outcomes for women after abortion. That's the kind of study that doesn't make the front page news. The media, for some reason, will not pick it up, and I feel that's important information for women to get.
Let's highlight a couple of, here's some of the issues after abortion: major depression, anxiety disorders, suicide ideation, that's thinking about it, drug abuse and alcohol dependence. But let's start with relationships, because this is interesting. You found that a quarter of aborters over 35 are currently divorced or separated, compared to only 19% of women that haven't had abortion. Cumulative effect of these marriage failures is that by their late 30s, only a minority are in their first marriage. Why is that important?
Well, again, Institute of Marriage and Family Canada wanted to look at the family repercussions. One of the myths we face every day about abortion is that it affects only one person. The woman makes the choice, her body, her choice. That's a myth as well. And so we wanted to look at abortion and what it does for the family and to the family in a broader picture. And so what the research shows is that women about my age are less likely to be married, less likely to stay in a marriage. And Brian, this is research, fine, you can say it's academic, but these are people's lives we're talking about. Most people want to be in a happy, long-lasting marriage relationship. We still hold to those ideals. Most people want to. So there's a lot of human suffering behind those statistics, and it's important to identify what it does to the family, what abortion's effects are on the family.
All right, sexuality, a Swiss study found that more than 30% of women reported a minimum of one sexual problem 6 months after an abortion. Another showed that 24% of post-abortive American women experienced sexual problems that they attributed to a previous abortion, and 33.7% of women reported post-abortion decrease in sexual desire. 26.9% indicated decreased enjoyment in sexual activity following an abortion. Those are the things that women will not be told.
Yeah.
The big March for Life was last week, and you're right. The other side will come out and say, well, this only affects me, or it affects one woman. It's their choice. Don't the women that are going to make that choice deserve to know some of this information beforehand?
What happens is, what I'm doing is research, which I hope that families and women will be able to access. What happens in the political square is that you get one set of ideologues or partisan politicians boldly going forward. The pro-life side is, we're getting a little bit more attention. I freely say I'm pro-life, by the way. There's no hidden agenda here. I'm trying to talk about the studies that are good quality research that don't get discussed, but I'm pro-life. People tend to know that. So there you go, there's the bias. But that is a side that is very real and touches on women's lives, and they are not expecting it. So I found a story of a true story of a woman named Lee, also put that into this report. Lee is pro-choice today, was pro-choice before her abortion, and yet experienced severe consequences.
Talks about not crying for 6 weeks, couldn't stand because her legs would give way.
She actually went and wrote a letter to the abortion clinic that did her abortion and said, either you don't know about these effects, in which case I'm telling you, or you don't tell women, and you should. And so that's also part of this study, just to give voice to some of what women are experiencing. I didn't mean to focus exclusively on women, because I think the point of this is to show that we're interconnected, men and women together, families. Men also suffer in abortion circumstances. But just there's a bigger societal picture, really, of how the sexual revolution and access to abortion has changed the way we think about families. And I think that's worth lending some attention to, because it's a really substantial change. If I could, it's a big change. And if I could just add that even those who are in favor of those changes acknowledge how big the changes are to family.
Andrew Mrozek, thank you as always.